Alrighty, guys, I went 4-2 in my 6 personal sports bets on my website yesterday. And the only way you would have been able to access all of those plays is to be a board member on my website. The board member package gives you access to every single bet, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. It's an all-inclusive, all-access membership that actually works out to be just $1.66 a day if you sign up here today. And I'll tell you what, at an average of 4 to 6 plays I post a day, you're actually looking at roughly 33 cents a pick over the course of a 30-day span, give or take. And before we go ahead and move on here, guys, just want to take a brief time out and welcome you to my NBA video here today for Friday, January 6, 2023. My name is Brock Page, and I've been doing sports picks for free on YouTube since 2016. Once again, guys, if you want to see which one of these free picks on my videos that I'm actually betting on personally, the best way to do that is to become a board member on patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to take a look at the Bulls at the Sixers, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Philadelphia's -5, totals 231. Now, the Sixers are going to work here tonight without Joel Embiid. Joe's battling a foot injury. But even when these guys are mostly healthy, this Sixer team, they really don't score a lot of points in the Wells Fargo Center. They're currently in the bottom 10 in points per game at home. And they're grabbing fewer offensive boards a game than any other team in the league except for Dallas. Now, they're facing a Chicago team on the other side of things who actually does a pretty good job defensively late in games. These guys are currently in the top 10 in third quarter points allowed on defense. Pretty good statistic there. And I'll tell you this much, not many teams are scoring more points on the road than Chicago right now. These guys average 115 points a night away from the Windy City, and they've got a pretty high offensive field goal percentage as a team right now. Now, DeMar DeRozan, he's making 50% of his shots from the field. Of course, he's also the team's leading scorer with over 26.5 points a night. Meanwhile, teammate Zach LaVine, he's scoring over 22 points a game himself. When it comes to the injury report, Caruso and Green are questionable. Alonzo is still out. Meanwhile, for Philadelphia on the other side, once again, Joel Embiid's out with a foot. When it comes to the total, the Bulls went 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Philadelphia saw 7 out of their last 10 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean towards Chicago +5 over 231. Next game, Blazers-Pacers, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Indiana's -2, totals 237. Now, the Pacers have played some pretty good basketball over the past couple of weeks. They're 6-2 straight up in their last 8. And they actually have a .650 win percentage in the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And in those home games I just mentioned, well, Indy's racked up a good amount of points. These guys are scoring nearly 120 points a game in their own arena. Tyrese Halliburton, he's averaging over 20.5 points a night. He's also drilling 40% of his long balls. Meanwhile, teammate Buddy Hield, he's making 42% of his three-pointers himself. He's also averaging 18 points a night. Now, they're facing a Portland squad who lost 5 out of their last 7. They also have a losing record on the road. And I'll tell you this much, the Blazers' biggest issue on the road has actually been their offensive production. Portland is currently in the bottom 5 in the entire NBA in road scoring. When it comes to the injury report, Jeremy Grant and Gary Payton, they are listed as questionable. Nasir Little is out. When it comes to the total, Portland saw overs against the likes of Detroit, Dallas, and San Antonio. Meanwhile, the Pacers are 60% to the over in front of their own fans. I'm going to lean toward Indy -2 over 237. Next ball game, it is going to be Nets Pels, 7:30 p.m. East. Brooklyn's the 4-point favorite on the road, totals 231. Now, the Nets did get the W in 9 out of their last 10. They have a .600 win percentage while traveling. And as usual, guys, these guys still remain arguably one of the best shooting teams in the game alongside of Denver. Brooklyn's currently leading the league in offensive field goal percentage. Now, they're also knocking down nearly 40% of their three-pointers as a team. Royce O'Neal's knocking down over 41% of his shots from long range. And of course, teammate Kevin Durant, he's getting a team-high 29 points a night. Now, they're facing a banged-up Pels team on the other side of things who actually gives up a lot of points late in games. Now, check this out. New Orleans is in the bottom 5 in third-quarter points allowed. And, of course, they're giving up more fourth-quarter points a game than most clubs in the Western Conference. So they give up a lot of points late in games. Certainly, even if Brooklyn is down at half, they're live. They could be down 20 at half and still be live to cover that number. Now, injury-wise, Zion and Ingram are both out. Nance and Hernan-Gomez are questionable. Meanwhile, for Brooklyn, they're mostly healthy for the exception of T.J. Warren, who's day-to-day. When it comes to the total, 4 out of Brooklyn's last 7 stayed under the number. Meanwhile, the Pels saw unders against the likes of Houston, Memphis, and Indy. I'm going to lean toward Brooklyn -4, under 231. Next matchup, Knicks, Raptors, 7:30 Eastern tip-off. Toronto's the 3.5-point favorite at home, totals 218. And even though they are favored in this one, the Raptors lost 4 out of their last 5. They do find themselves as one of the worst shooting teams in the game. They have the second lowest three-point percentage in the NBA right now. They're also in the bottom 5 in shooting from the field. They're facing a Knicks team on the other side who has the lowest defensive field goal percentage on the road themselves. They currently lead the league in guarding the field goal. And it should come as no surprise, the Knicks are currently in the top 3 in fewest points allowed per game on the road as well. Now, scoring-wise, Julius Randle, he leads the team with 24 points a game, along with double-digit rebounds. Meanwhile, teammate Jalen Brunson, he's scoring 20 points a night himself. Now, when it comes to the injury list, R.J. Barrett's still out for New York. Meanwhile, for the Raptors on the other side, Porter's still out. Siakam's questionable. When it comes to the number, Toronto's 67% to the under against an Eastern Conference opponent at home. Meanwhile, the Knicks on the other side, they are 12-7 to the under while traveling. I'm going to lean toward the Knicks +3.5, under 218. Next game, Hornets Bucks, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Milwaukee's -10 at home, totals 232. Now, it does look like the Bucks are back on track here. Winners of 3 out of their last 4. 16-4 straight up at the Fiserv Forum. And it's going to be real tough for Charlotte to score here tonight because Milwaukee does play some defense. They're allowing only 109 points a game at home, and they're in the top 5 in guarding the field goal. Now, scoring-wise, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's averaging over 32.5 points a game, along with a dozen boards. He's actually in the top 3 in both of those categories. Meanwhile, Drew Holiday scoring over 18 points a night himself, along with 5 boards, 7 assists. I'll tell you what, when these guys play at home, the Bucks have covered in 70% of those contests. A lot of good things happening at the Fiserv Forum this year. Now, injury-wise, Chris Middleton's still out indefinitely with that knee. Meanwhile, for Charlotte, Kelly Oubre is still out for them. Gordon Hayward is doubtful. And when it comes to the total, the Hornets have gone 13-7 to the over in their travels. Meanwhile, Milwaukee 65% to the over in their own building. I'm going to lean toward Milwaukee -10, over 232. Next matchup, it is going to be Pistons, Spurs, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. San Antonio is the 1-point favorite, totals 236. And even though the Spurs are the slight fave in this one, they do continue to play some really bad basketball. They're currently on a 3-game skid, and they also dropped 7 out of their last 10. When it comes to defensive play, nobody's allowing more points a game than the Spurs. They're facing a Detroit squad who got the W in 3 out of their last 5. And they averaged 117 points a game in those contests. When it comes to defensive play, these guys are actually in the top 5 in defending the three-pointer. Now, scoring-wise, Bojan Bogdanovic, he averages a team-high 21 points a night. He's also making 42% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Alec Burks is drilling over 45% of his long balls. Now, injury-wise, Bagley and Livers are still out for Detroit. Meanwhile, Richardson and Bates Diop are questionable for San Antonio. Vassal's still out as well. When it comes to the total, San Antonio went 9-1 to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Detroit saw 7 out of their last 10 get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Detroit +1, over 236. The next matchup, it is going to be Wizards at the Thunder, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. OKC is -1.5, totals 231 and a hook. And what am I missing here, guys? Why can't I? Oh, yeah, Wizards. I was going back and forth on it. Once again, OKC is -1.5, totals 231 and a hook. Despite some lackluster play here recently, OKC still got a winning record at home. They're scoring more points a game at home than most clubs in the Western Conference. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he averages over 30.5 points a game, along with 4 boards, 5 assists. Meanwhile, Josh Giddey averages 15 points a game himself, along with 8 rebounds, 5 assists himself. They're facing a Wizards team who plays their worst basketball on the road. Out of 22 road games this year, these guys got the W only 7 times. When it comes to shooting the 3 ball, no one does it worse on the road than Washington. These guys are shooting a league low 31% from 3-land when they travel. Now, injury-wise, Bradley Beal's still out. Gibson and Gafford are questionable. Meanwhile, for Oklahoma City, Williams and Deng are out. Robinson, Earl, and Pokusevski still inactive as well. And when it comes to the total in this one, OKC's 13-7 to the over in the Paycom Center. Now, Washington saw overs against the likes of Phoenix, Philadelphia, and Utah recently. I'm going to lean toward the OKC Thunder, -1.5, over 231 and a hook. Next matchup, it is going to be Cavs, Nugs, 9 o'clock East. Denver's the 6-point favorite, totals 222. Now, Denver's been nearly unbeatable at the Ball Arena. Out of 18 home games in their own building, Denver got the W 15 times. And if you thought Brooklyn shoots the ball well, nobody does it better at home than Denver. The Nugs make a league-high 42% of their three-pointers in front of their own fans. Of course, in addition to that, they're also first in the league in offensive field goal percentage at home. They're making nearly 53% of their field goals. Now, Nikola Jokic, he scores over 25 points a game, and he's also averaging double-digit rebounds. Meanwhile, Michael Porter Jr. is drilling 41% of his shots from beyond the arc. Now, they're facing a Cleveland squad on the other side of things who's had a pretty tough time covering the point spread recently. These guys went just 1-5 against the spread in their last 6. And in addition to that, they're also scoring just 107 points a night in their travels. That puts them in the bottom 5 in the NBA in road scoring. Now, injury-wise, Mitchell and Wade are out. Garland is questionable. Meanwhile, for Denver on the other side, Peyton Watson is questionable for them. And when it comes to the total, Denver's 67% to the under in the Ball Arena. Meanwhile, Cleveland's 10-7 to the under away from home. I'm going to lean toward Denver, -6, under 222. Next ball game, it is going to be Clippers, Timberwolves, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Minnesota's the 4-point favorite at home, totals 226. And even though the Clippers are in the second of a back-to-back, it's actually been Minnesota who struggled to get the W recently. They lost 6 out of their last 8, and they're still going to work without Karl Anthony Towns. Now, the T-Wolves' biggest issue this season has been their defensive play. These guys are actually giving up 116 points a night in the target center. Now, in addition to that, they also have the highest defensive three-point percentage at home in the league. They're facing these Clippers shooters who do rank in the top 3 in three-point percentage on the road themselves. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, the Clippers are grabbing more offensive boards on the road than most teams in the West. Ivica Zubac is averaging double-digit rebounds a game, 10 points a night for the 7-footer. And of course, Paul George, he scores a team-high 23 points a game himself. Now, injury-wise, Karl Anthony Towns and Jordan McLaughlin are still out for Minnesota. Forbes and Reeds are questionable. Meanwhile, for the Clippers on the other side, Nicholas Batum is questionable. Kawhi Leonard is doubtful. When it comes to the total, 4 out of LA's last 6 on the road got over the number. Meanwhile, Minnesota went 60% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the Clippers, +4, over 226. Next matchup, it is going to be Heat Suns, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Miami's -2.5, totals 214. Now, the Heat should get the job done here, guys. Phoenix really playing some bad, basketball recently. The Suns are currently on a 4-game skid, and they also lost 7 out of their last 8. And aside from being really banged up right now, the Suns also tend to start off very slow offensively. These guys are in the bottom 3 in first quarter scoring, bottom 10 in second quarter scoring as well. Now they're facing a Miami squad on the other side who does play some of the toughest defense in the NBA. These guys are currently in the top 3 in fewest road points allowed. And no real surprise here, guys. The Heat's also grabbing more defensive boards per game than most clubs in the Eastern Conference. Now, Bam Adebayo, he's been very good underneath the basket. He's averaging nearly double-digit rebounds a night. Bam's also scoring 21 points a game. And, of course, Jimmy Butler, he's dropping 21.5 points a night himself. No real surprise there. Jimmy Butler consistently getting the job done, really on both ends of the court. Now, injury-wise, Haslam and Martin are questionable for Miami. Meanwhile, for Phoenix, Payne, Booker, Crowder, and Johnson are still out for them. When it comes to the scoring, 5 out of Phoenix's last 8 did stay under the total. Meanwhile, Miami went 13-7 to the under in their road games. I'm going to lean toward the Heat, -2.5, under 214. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Hawks at the Lakers, 10:30 Eastern tip-off. Atlanta's the 3-point favorite on the road, totals 242. Now, Atlanta does play their worst basketball on the road. Out of 19 road games, they got the W only 7 times. When it comes to defensive play, these guys are giving up 119 points a night while traveling. They're facing a Laker team on the other side who has little issue getting on the scoreboard. LA's averaging 117 points a game in the crypto arena, and they have one of the higher field goal percentages in the West. Now, LeBron James, he is 51% from the field himself. Of course, LeBron scoring 29 points a night as well. That's a team high. Meanwhile, Russell Westbrook, he's scoring 14.5 points a game himself. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Walker and Reeves are out. Jones and Brown are questionable. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, Clint Capella's out with a calf injury. When it comes to the total, Atlanta's going 13-6 to the over on the road. Meanwhile, Los Angeles is 11-7 to the over against an Eastern Conference opponent this year. I'm going to lean toward the Lakers, +3, over 242. And with that, guys, now it's time in the video where we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. I like Chicago +5, over 231. Pacers -2, over 237. Brooklyn -4, under 231. Before we go ahead and move on here, guys, one final reminder that I went 4-2 of my 6 personal sports bets on my website yesterday. And the only way to access every one of my personal plays is to become a board member on patreon.com/BrockPage. Give me the Knicks +3.5, under 218. Milwaukee -10, over 232. Detroit +1, over 236. Oklahoma City -1.5, over 231 and a hook. Denver -6, under 222. LA Clippers +4, over 226. Miami -2.5, under 214. With my next and final free pick, give me the Lakers +3, over 242. With that, guys, that's going to do it for me. One final reminder, I just said it, I'll say it again. Guys, I went 4-2 on my 6 personal sports bets on my website yesterday. And the only way you would have been able to access all of those plays is to become a board member on my website. Now, the board member package gives you access to every single bet, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. It's an all-access, all-inclusive membership that works out to be just $1.66 a day if you sign up here today. And I'll tell you this much, at an average of 4 to 6 plays I post a day, you're actually looking at roughly 33 cents a pick over the course of a 30-day span, give or take the amount of plays I put out on a daily basis. And with that, guys, that is going to do it for me. Got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube or TikTok. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.